From the latest on Caribbean cruises to kosher safaris, pilgrimages to Jewish Eastern Europe, and award-winning wines and international cuisine in sun-drenched Tel Aviv. Sit back and enjoy the trip with the travel edition of the Jerusalem Post podcast.
Morning, David.
Good morning, Mark.
Where are we?
Are you trying to get me to absolutely butcher another foreign language?
I think for those of you who have listened to any of our podcasts in Polish, well, not in Polish, in Poland, we're clearly not going to be doing it in Polish. We are struggling a little bit with the pronunciation, but we've moved to a region which I think we can pronounce.
If you look at it in writing, the third letter looks like an L, but if you look very closely, it's got a sort of diagonal line through it, which Mark and I have learned through bitter experience is a kind of W. So the region that we're in is called Małopolska.
When we were in Lodz, we were actually in Łódź. And so L is W, but just to make things a little bit easier, W is V.
And on top of all of that, if you get an S and a Z together, and believe me, there are lots of those in Polish, it's kind of a
Yes, on the border with Germany, there's a city with a C, an SC and a Z, followed by another C and a Z. If we ever go there, we'll learn how to pronounce it, but I'm not going to say Szczecin.
It's a bit like being in Wales, actually. We are in Małopolska, as we said. If you can hear noise in the background, we'll explain to you what that is in a few moments' time. But we're surrounded by eager beavers, lots of young people about to descend into the depths. But we're in Małopolska. We're in Lesser Poland, is a translation of Małopolska. And now Mark is going to tell you the name of the city that we're in.
We are on the outskirts of Kraków, and the L and the V rule applies here because we're in a place beginning with a W, which is pronounced Wieliczka.
Wieliczka. I'm not going to be able to say that more than once. What we're going to do now is place ourselves in the very capable hands of a tour guide, and in a moment you'll hear from her and she will explain exactly where we are and what we're about to do. Hi, this is David Harris from the Jerusalem Post podcast Travel Edition. Find us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at MarkDavidPod, or mail us at markdavidpod@gmail.com.
Are you coming in, David?
Yes, I am. I hope you're not claustrophobic.
No. When you said shaft, David, I thought we were going to an exhibition about the 1970s detective.
No, we are about to descend, and we're doing it in the company of two ladies. There is Magda, who is from the Regional Tourist Office, and Patricia, who is our guide for the next hour and a half. We are heading down pretty quickly. People who are listening to this don't yet know where we are, so maybe you could explain.
Sure, we are in the Wieliczka salt mine, which is the best known tourist site in Poland. The mine, which was in operation for 700 years producing salt, it was used to preserve food. And now it's very famous. It's a UNESCO heritage site. It was named the UNESCO heritage site in 1978.
The elevator.
How would I describe this mine? I've been down a coal mine before, and it's very dark and lots of coal on the walls, and then a few wooden poles holding everything up. You get a feeling that you're basically being kept alive by a toothpick. This feels slightly different.
I just want to say, first of all, there are no poles holding up the walls here. We're in, as you heard, a UNESCO site. It's a heavily touristed area. We've not been in here before. We don't know what to expect other than the few photographs that we've seen. But the people around us descended 380 odd steps. We came down in the original shaft that the miners came down in. And we're about to discover what's inside.
We are on the first level of the Wieliczka salt mine now. The depth is 64 meters. There are 9 levels. Visitors go deeper, but not all the way down to the bottom of the mine. The first 3 levels are open to the public. What is really interesting about visiting the mine, visitors are allowed to lick the salt on the way. It's all right to taste it. So if you want, you can pinch this white salt off the wall and taste it. There are no limits. You can eat as much salt as you want to during the tour. It's antiseptic. There is no bacteria on the surface, so it's not dangerous.
But how much salt can a person consume that's healthy for them?
Oh, well, we should not put salt on our food at all because almost everything we eat contains salt already. We should not eat more than a teaspoon a day, and everything we have to remember, everything contains salt. So I don't know if I can say that, but I don't put salt on my food. I think I absorb so much salt every day working here that I don't need salty food anymore. But I don't think it will hurt you if you just taste a little bit.
If I lick the walls, that's it for the week.
You've got a particularly big tongue, so you'll get a spoonful in one lick. So Mark is now actually breaking a wall.
A 500-year-old wall is now in my hands. It's salt. It's like eating salt because it's salt.
I have to explain, when Mark says salt, to those of you listening in America, he's actually saying salt.
It needs soy sauce, I think. It's just,
That's really strong. Ah, wow. It's much stronger than what you would take at home. At home, presumably, it's been refined.
This is pure sodium chloride. Later on, you will also see salt which is not pure. The color of it is grey because of the impurities, and that grey salt is a little bit less salty.
so we won't eat that.
You will lick the wall.
Have you listened to the Jerusalem Post podcast travel edition? I'm David Harris, and together with my co-host Mark Gordon, we bring you the best from the world of travel and tourism.
We have people who literally fly to Park City just to do the ski minion.
And it has that heavenly taste that you don't really find nowadays in the market.
When was the last time you went to a restaurant and they bought you a picnic basket about 8 courses in?
The Dracula tour, that's a very unusual honeymoon option, really.
The Jerusalem Post podcast travel edition brings you the joys of travel and tourism. So why not subscribe today wherever you get your podcasts?
Cheers, Mark.
Cheers, David.
Oh,
It's a very busy salt mine. I just saw about 30 dwarves walk by singing hi-ho. We're by what looks like a lake.
what do you mean it looks like a lake? It is a lake.
It's not a lake.
What is it if it's not a lake?
I don't know.
It's water, and it's...
It's more of a pond.
It's artificial, so we can call it a pond. I think ponds are artificial, aren't they? I don't know. We call it a lake. It's a salt lake. The water of the lake is super salty, 320 grams of salt in a liter of the water. It must be that salty because if it wasn't, it would dissolve the walls of the chamber. The walls are salt, and that would cause a massive collapse of this chamber. The chamber is on the top of this one and of the surface where 20,000 people live. Water is not good for the salt mine, but the water of this lake is 10 times more salty than seawater, so it's not dangerous to keep it here. It's not going to dissolve the walls of the chamber. It doesn't absorb salt anymore.
As we've been walking around, we've discovered that you have many talents. One of those is that you speak a little Hebrew, and you were learning at university. Do you know much about the Dead Sea and how this pond, lake, would compare to the water in the Dead Sea?
I have to tell you something. Once I went to Israel to bring some water from the Dead Sea to our laboratory at the mine. However, the person working in the laboratory told me that it's not possible to compare the water from this lake and the water of the Dead Sea, as the temperature of the water from the Dead Sea changed during my way home. And it's a lot about temperature. Do you know that you can dissolve more salt in water if temperature is higher? So the level of saturation depends on the temperature of water. What we know for sure is that there are more minerals dissolved in the water of the Dead Sea than here.
What this tells me is you should never trust the tour guide in a scientific experiment, and you should leave it to the scientists.
Yes, but I really wanted to know. Many visitors ask about it. Everybody knows about the Dead Sea. So the first thing they ask about entering this chamber is the water here as salty as the water of the Dead Sea?
Do you get many Israeli tourists coming through here?
We used to have many teenagers before the pandemic. The pandemic changed everything. I think we had more than 20,000 a year coming towards Auschwitz, learning about the Holocaust, but they always came to the mine, and we were really happy about it because I didn't think they had much enjoyment during their stay in Poland, and we didn't want them to see Poland as the place of martyrology. Oh, yes. So we were happy they were coming here. This was the only fun thing for them in Poland, actually, and we had many of them coming, and we have sometimes families coming as individual tourists during summer.
We've spent 2 hours underground. I think it's probably impossible to imagine what an 8-hour shift would have been here on uneven ground without proper lighting. You do this because you love the place. You're not bringing salt to the surface anymore. Yes, it's a job, but tell us a little bit more about your passion for this place.
Well, I love the mine, I have to say. It's an amazing place, a lot of history behind it. Everybody likes it. We have something to impress visitors with. Visitors coming from all over the world with many wonders. They all like the mine. I learn a lot from tourists coming here. I do my exercise every day. Salt preserves me. So there are many benefits.
You exercise in the mine?
Yes, I walk a lot, like 3 kilometers with every group. People working here are lovely. All the miners who are still here for the maintenance and tour guides. We support each other if necessary. It's a very enjoyable job to guide tourists here in Wieliczka.
Do you have a favourite part of the mine?
I like the wood, what carpenters did. So that big chamber with the white wooden construction is my favorite chamber of the tourist route.
Somebody listening to this who wants to know more details, how to find the place, how to learn about the place, how do they do so?
Visit our website. The first thing you should do, so you know the opening hours. We are open pretty much every day, and the mine is accessible for everybody. Children are allowed to go. We have tours for visitors on wheelchairs. It's important to know the temperature, which can be very different from the temperature outside. Good shoes, you have to be prepared for a lot of walking. But everything is on the website. Also photographs of the places situated outside the tourist route if you want to know more about the mine.
You need to tell us the name of the website.
Wieliczka Salt Mine. Actually, if you only write down the name of the mine, like only Wieliczka, or salt mine only, that's enough because it's very famous.
Wieliczka, that's Wielizka. Wieliczka.
Or Z.
Or Z, in fact.
Patricia, thank you for... Whoa! Thank you very... Shush. Thank you very much indeed for showing us around and for your passion for what you don't even consider to be a job.
Thank you for coming because I can tell everything the same about you. You are passionate about what you are doing, I think. Yes? And you are having fun doing your job.
I think it's more the after effects of licking the walls around here.
I'm really going to be unfair, even though we've said thank you and goodbye to you, but as we were coming up in the elevator through 135 meters with the wind and we were squished against everybody else and your nose was basically crammed into the gates on the side of the lift, you said you know some Israeli Hebrew songs. Are you going to sing for us?
Oh my God, I'm not a good singer. V'ha'ikar, lo lefahed klal. That's all I can do.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Maybe you should cut it.
Małopolska Fact File. The main airport in Małopolska or Lesser Poland is Kraków-Wieliczka John Paul II International Airport. There are direct flights to Kraków from Tel Aviv with Wizz, LOT and El Al. You can fly into the city from Chicago with LOT. There are direct flights from Dubai and Abu Dhabi and many cities across Europe including London, Amsterdam, Paris, Frankfurt and numerous cities in the UK. It's a 30-minute taxi ride from the airport to Kraków and 50 minutes longer by public transport. There are also buses and a train service to the tourist areas of the city. You can reach the city of Tarnów in about an hour and the town of Zakopane in under 2 hours. In Kraków, we stayed in the comfortable and superbly located Hotel Saski, part of the Curio collection by Hilton. Tarnów has many small hotels, including the Apart Hotel Ujana. Zakopane also has some beautiful 5-star resort hotels such as the Nozolowy Park Hotel, Aries and Radisson Blu. $1 will buy you 4 Polish zloty. Małopolska has a continental climate. It's warm in the summer and cold in the winter. The average annual temperature for Małopolska is 13 degrees Celsius or 55 degrees Fahrenheit, and there's about 240 millimeters or 10 inches of rain a year. Perhaps the best time to visit Kraków is from mid-May to mid-September, since it's the warmest and sunniest period of the year. Due to the higher location of Zakopane, it snows in the winter months. The most popular regional products in Małopolska are oszczypek, which is cheese from the Tatra mountains, and obwarzanek, which are parboiled dough rings. Treat yourself to a vegan tasting menu at Givont, with its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the eponymous mountain. Kosher food is available in Krakow. Check chabadkrakow.org.
Morning, David.
Good morning, Mark.
So here's a story. In the summer, we were in Tel Aviv and we were invited to a party by the Polish embassy. The Israeli government always sends a minister, and they sent Moshe Arbel, who is was at the time the health minister and the interior minister. And Moshe Arbel is from the Shas party, a Middle Eastern Mizrahi party. He's a religious man, and he stands up, and we thought, maybe they've sent the wrong person because this is Polish, this is Eastern European, and they've sent someone who's completely the opposite. So Moshe Arbel spoke very well, and at the end he spoke about his holiday. He said, I've been to Poland and I went to Zakopane and I had a wonderful time. So David and I looked at each other and we looked at Dorota from the Polish Tourist Authority. We thought, that sounds interesting. And here we are 6 months later.
Hello, my name is Jacek Ziemba-Jasiński, or Jack Finch, like my nickname in English. Yeah, I'm the Tatra guide and also the city guide. I do heritage trips and mountain trips too. I'm local. I'm 45 and almost all my life I spent here in Zakopane, and I really love that place still. I think the best thing I can say about that attitude is I can feel like a tourist when I walk around the streets of Zakopane. Zakopane is the really unique place in Poland. Is only town which lies so high with the view on the high mountains with completely different climate, especially long winter. That's the most significant things, and a strong presence of the most original and strong local culture in Poland. I think the Highlanders culture, which is very colorful, still living, and you can observe it on every step on the street.
We've come into what was the epicenter of life, I guess, when Zakopane was much younger as a town. Tell our listeners where we are and why this was such an important place.
We are right now in so-called Old Church. That was the first church in Zakopane. It was constructed in the middle of 19th century. Of course, immediately it started to be a center of every form of life, the spiritual, physical, intellectual, mostly because of the person of the parson. First parson in Zakopane, Józef Stolarczyk, because his house, his home, was the first place when people from outside, the first tourists, we could say today, were staying. Yeah? And that was also the person who developed the tourism in Zakopane. Old Church is also a very nice place just to be in here, just to sit in here. You don't need to pray. You can just step inside, sit in the pew, and just feel it and smell it, because it's a wooden building and has a very nice silence climate.
Zakopane is filled with wood. Everywhere you walk, the houses are wood, the schools are wood, the museums are wood. Does it have a very unique style for Poland?
Yes and no. Why? People were building buildings from the wood because they couldn't afford anything else. Only rich people were building from the stone or from the bricks. That was the poor way to build anything. And later it became a significant element of local architecture, culture, and so on. And even today, people are making buildings made of concrete, but outside they put it in the wood just to keep that, expression.
In a short while, we're going to hear a little more of the history of this area when we step out towards the cemetery. But for now, in addition to seeing the older buildings, we also walked through, I guess, what you would call the modern heart of this town, which has become a mecca for tourists. What does a tourist do, see, experience when they visit here in 2023, 2024?
I have to be honest, and most of them are going to Krupówki Street because that's the like a landmark and the brand of the city, and just want to be at the Krupówki Street, like on Eiffel Tower in Paris. Yeah. Of course, many of them are going to Tatra National Park just to hike, and there's a huge amount of people every year. Last year it was almost 5 million people, and if you're looking for peace and silence on the touristic trails, there are very few of that, but that's a good phenomenon because it's better for people to walk to the mountains than to sit in a bar. Yeah? But Zakopane, unfortunately today we cannot see it, but even walking around the streets of Zakopane you still have a beautiful view because it's just a stick to the high mountains, and from every place in the city you have nice view.
This is the Jerusalem Post Podcast Travel Edition. Find us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at MarkDavidPod, or mail us at markdavidpod@gmail.com.
Whilst this is a busy town full of tourists, of course the locals, at least 30,000 people, the vast majority of whom work in the tourism industry, we found a very quiet, very peaceful corner, and that is the old cemetery, which was used until the earliest part of the 20th century. And I believe there are some well-known people who are laid to rest here.
Yes, we are on Old Cemetery, which is 50 meters from the most noisy and crowded place in Zakopane. In the lower part of Krupówki Street there is a big market just outside the wall, but we are on the other side of the wall in a silent place in the Old Cemetery, where many great Polish people from the history of our nation is buried. Many of them were artists, the sculptors, for example. So you will find completely unique forms of tombstones here. Like from the ruler, every tombstone is very similar to one another. Here you cannot find two similar to one another. Many tombstones are just form of arts.
As we were walking through the town earlier, you were saying that Zakopane in many ways became a refuge, perhaps for the intelligentsia, for people who were fiercely Polish but were not living in Poland.
For 123 years, from 1795 to 1980, Poland was ripped between the empires, Russia, Prussia and Austria. And Zakopane, as they say, was the most free place during that period, especially between the 19th and 20th century. That was the reason many great writers, poets, pianists, painters, intelligence and high cultural people were coming to Zakopane just to feel free, to create here, to compose, to write, to paint, to sculpt. That was one of the origins of legend of Zakopane.
It's not a very large cemetery. We can see the gate behind us and we can see the end wall over there, and just behind the end wall we can see what I think is the lowest station to go up the mountain. You mentioned that it was a bigger cemetery once, but what happened to it?
About 1942, during the Second World War, the Nazis just deleted part of the cemetery, about 30%. The reason was typical German, Ordnung muss sein, because they wanted to make the straight way from the Krupówki Street to the lower station of cable car to Gubałówka. So that was the reason. There was no exhumation. They were just the big machines came here and just deleted that part of the cemetery, as well as the synagogue, which was on the other side of the wall, and the Jewish community was like the 17% of people at the time.
It's nice to be in the warm again.
This is a running theme on your visits to Central Europe, my friend.
I'm reading this upside down. We're in Gazdowo, Kuźnia.
Is that actually where we are?
Almost. Gazdowo.
That's close enough for me.
Right.
If I get above 80%, I think that's a pass for me.
Now, we did say we were going to do the next bit of the interview. I think we said up on the top of a mountain or a hill.
Yes, and we still couldn't see anything up there. And having thrown David in the snow, I think we decided to come inside and get warm.
There were 7-year-olds throwing snowballs at each other, and then Mark went for it.
Sorry.
It's okay, it's very nice. You will be able to find, hopefully, some photos or video on our social media at Mark David Pod.
David, what's your least favourite word in the world other than Mark?
Actually, it's David when either my wife or my children are saying it, because I know it means something that I'm going
means you have to do something.
Yeah. No, apart from that, it's celebrity. Why are you asking?
Because our tour guide, Jack Finch, which is his Hollywood name, is an extremely talented person, we found out in the half-hour walking that we've done since the last interview.
What do you mean?
So if I hum this tune or sort of sing it, does it mean anything to you? Da, 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 da.
Let me think. Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are actually in the company of the Polish Darth Vader.
When we say that, it's not that Jacek or Jack does it on stage as like a joke or something with his friends. In the Polish dubbed version of Star Wars, he is Darth Vader.
Yes, that was a part of my life when I was not producing but giving my voice to the Polish version of the video games, and one of the version of Star Wars released in Poland was with my voice as a Darth Vader. That was like 13 years ago, and that voice was obviously processed by the computer and so on. But yes, it was my voice.
Do people stop you in the street and say, "We recognize you or your voice"?
Unfortunately, never. That's, as far as I can tell, that the game wasn't very popular in Poland. Plus, that voice was processed, and in other games I played few games with my voice, and that was so processed, so changed that you can just recognize on the street, like the people from podcasts or something like that.
But Jack is definitely not my father.
Yeah.
You did say that George Lucas had to approve your voice.
Yes, I was told by the producers that the procedure was like this. Then George Lucas wanted to personally accept the main characters, like Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, and so on. So they told me that every samples of voices were sent to him, and he personally accepted every voice. So I was chosen by George Lucas.
Enough of fame or infamy and so on. Somebody coming to this beautiful town from overseas, in our case from Israel or Jewish people and other people who follow the Jerusalem Post, come to visit. What would you like them to take away? What is it you want them to remember from an experience in such a wonderful part of the world?
Through the year, you can experience really beautiful moments, from the hot summer to the harsh winter. Outside of the main market street, there are really many original places, and you can meet original people. Not crazy people, but just original, very honest and good people.
How do people get in contact with you if they want a tour of Zakopane or the planet Hoth?
I have an email, of course.
And Mark is about to read out the email, pens at the ready, and you may run out of ink by the time we get through Jacek's name.
So Jacek's email is JACEKTATRY, that's JacekTatry @gmail.com. Jacek, thank you very much for taking us around, for giving up your time to show us the town of Zakopane and trying to show us the mountains of Zakopane, which weren't coming out to play today. It's been a real fun morning with you.
I know that's the common sense and the way of ending the meetings, saying my pleasure, but indeed it was my pleasure, and that's the best part of my work, to meet the people like you and just to have a meeting and conversation with the capital M and capital C. So thank you.
So what better to do after a hard day's hiking through mountains and villages, the Tatra Tatras, the Subcarpathians. Well, we managed to do our 10,000 steps, and Mark was so absolutely exhausted at the end of it that he decided the only thing possibly to do was to come back to our lovely hotel and have a massage. And right now, a masseuse is working his legs very hard, from calf to thigh right now, and I'm not sure if Mark is actually conscious, because the last time that I happened to be in a spa with Mark during a deep tissue massage, he was snoring, which is quite remarkable. But let's see if we can bother him for a minute. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going on my knees so that Mark can talk through the massage bed into the microphone. So I'm actually going to lie on my back. Oh. How are you doing, Mark?
Yes, I'm having a very, very strong massage. Evelina here is got hands of steel, but it's very nice. And my tight muscles in my legs from all of that walking are starting to relax.
I assume you'd like to have one every day.
Yeah. In fact, I'd like not to go to work and just have a massage each day, then take advantage of the swimming pool and all the other facilities in this hotel. I'm grateful we're doing it at the end of a long week. It's just a very good way to unwind and finish the week off.
I'll let you get back to the massage and just say that we're not quite finished because you're going to hate us, but we're about to take you to a Michelin Guide listed restaurant. We have had the most amazing day. Definitely one of the best days that we've had since we've been doing this, and we've been doing this for almost 3 years now.
I started with a bit of trepidation. When you see your tour guide turn up and he's in mountaineering gear and he looks thin and fit and he's about to lead you through the snow.
And far more attractive than either of us.
Well, I wasn't going to say.
Yes.
I was a little bit nervous that he was going to run us ragged, but it was a wonderful tour of Zakopane. We got to go up on a funicular, one on the tick list.
Yes, check.
Got back to the hotel, had a massage, a very deep tissue massage, and this time I didn't fall asleep.
Can you remember the name of the hotel?
The hotel is the Nozalavi Park.
Approximately.
Roughly.
If you look up something approximating Mark's pronunciation in Zakopane, it's highly recommended. It was very pleasurable, and we want to say a particular thank you there to Evelina, who is by far the best masseuse that I have had the honour of being punished by.
And when the feeling comes back into my legs, I will also say thank you to Evelina. No, really, really relaxing. And we have crowned today off by coming to what I would say is the best restaurant I have been to in Poland.
One of the best that we've been to in all of our travels around
Correct.
the world.
It's supposed to be a 6-course, but with these tasting menus, 9, 10 courses.
Surprises and different drinks all along the way. Not only what was on the menu, but the staff here brought out homemade quints, homemade vodkas. Just a stunning, stunning vegan meal.
And to top it all off, after a tour of the Givont complex, which contains apartments, a private dining room, and the most amazing views of the mountain, which the restaurant is named after. I say amazing views. We haven't actually seen many mountains today because of the low cloud.
It's actually snowing outside right now.
But the restaurant has floor-to-ceiling glass, balconies, and it is just stunning.
It is really, in terms of architecture, food, and as we always say, most importantly, the people from the restaurant that were serving, and I hate to use the word serving because I feel it has negative connotations, but I would say throughout the meal, they have been friends towards us. The explanations of the food, impeccable service, and the tastiest grub that I've had in a long, long time.
We've come to the cigar room, and Kuba, who has looked after us throughout the meal, is preparing our last aperitif. I don't know what it is. Booze. From a really stunning looking drinks cabinet. We are going to finish off in style here.
I got for you, sir, the vodka, which is called Purity. It's a Sweden-produced vodka, and they got three kinds, like a 17, 34, and 51. I've got for you the 51 because the numbers means the number of distillation. So the vodka is a very, very smooth, delight, and sweet.
Thank you very much indeed.
Big thanks to Dorota from the Polish Tourism Organisation, who has made this possible, and Magda from the Małopolska Tourism Organisation, who has been our accompanier and chaperone and made sure we haven't stolen anything
poor
for the
lady,
last 4 days.
She's had to listen to our alleged sense of humour, so that's been a great pleasure. We want to also say a big thank you to all of the people who have guested on this podcast. Do you remember who they were?
A big thank you to Patricia, who took us around the Wieliczka salt mine.
It feels like days ago, but what an incredible experience.
To Jack Finch,
who's a Polish name we're never going to try. To Darth Vader. And is that everybody?
That's everybody.
Thank you for listening. Please share the podcast. Tell your friends all about it. Give us a 5-star rating. Send us a message at MarkDavidPod on social media, and our email address markdavidpod@gmail.com.
And we hope we've inspired you to come to Poland and to come to the Małopolska region.
As we are about to take part in the final, sadly, alcoholic beverage of the evening, we wish all of you a wonderful, and we know you're going to be listening to this in 2024, but from us to you in 2023, have a happy new year. May the new year bring peace to the people in this region. Don't forget, we're very close to what's happening in Ukraine, and of course to everybody at home in Israel. So shalom, shalom from here, and goodbye.
Shalom.